Welcome to the Matt Bernier Show.
What's going on? Welcome in the Matt Bernier Show here on DRF Live, Friday, June the 10th, 2016. We're on the eve of the Belmont Stakes, the 148th running of the Belmont Stakes. I'm Matt Bernier. You can follow me on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. If you're watching here live on DRF Live, thanks for doing so. If you listen podcast version, YouTube, SoundCloud, DRF.com, you name it, it's out there somewhere if you really want to find it. Thanks for giving a little bit of time. We'll start things off with a sad note, not really a horse racing related, but Mr. Hockey Gordie Howe died today. He was believed just a shade under 80 years old. So we've had two giants, as far as sports are concerned, pass away in the past week. So unfortunate news there. Let's try to get on something a little bit more happy and a little bit higher note as far as sports are concerned. The Belmont Stakes tomorrow afternoon. We're finally here as the Triple Crown is concerned. It'll all wrap up tomorrow afternoon with the 148th running of the Belmont Stakes. Let's take a look at the field if we could. You've got a full field in here. Nyquist isn't here, the Kentucky Derby winner, but at the end of the day, that doesn't mean we don't have a good field lined up in this spot. Everyone's going to have to beat Exaggerator. He's the number 11 horse. He'll be breaking here. He's the winner of the Preakness. He was the runner-up in the Kentucky Derby. He was the winner of the Santa Anita Derby. He's put together a nice little resume for himself, and he's kind of set himself up for a scenario in which if he were to win this race, boy, he makes a pretty good case to be considered the top three-year-old ahead of Nyquist at this stage in the game, even though Nyquist has defeated him more often than not when the two of them match up head-to-head. I think that a lot of that has to also do with the fact, though, that Exaggerator seems to be a horse that just continues to get better bit by bit. Nyquist, he's taken a couple of big steps forward, and unfortunately he got sick after the Preakness. He had an elevated white blood cell. I can't get that out. This is, what, 3 weeks now? The elevated white blood cell count. And again, he's just a little bit under the weather. Hopefully we'll see him up at Saratoga for the Jim Dandy and the Travers. But it sounds like Exaggerator's coming into this in good form. Now look, mixed reactions based on his final workout leading up into the Belmont. You can check all that stuff out in the Clocker Report. That's on DRF.com from Mike Welsh, Mike Vesey. It sounds like it was not a sparkling workout by any stretch of the imagination. So it'll be interesting to see how he comes into this. Again, make no mistake about it, even with the lack of pace signed on in here, Exaggerator's the horse to beat in this spot. But there are other horses in here, and if it's not Exaggerator, whom is it? Could it be one of the two Todd Pletcher runners, whether it is Stradivari or whether it is Destin? Of the two, I'm a little bit more interested in Destin than Stradivari. Stradivari ran very well 3 weeks ago. Yeah, 3 weeks ago at this stage in the game now. In the Preakness Stakes, it was his first time against winners, the first time against graded stakes company, I should say. And he caught a wet track, and look, he didn't get embarrassed. He went out there and did his thing. I just think, boy, it seems like he was really cranked up for that spot. Now you're going to come back. And if you listen to Pletcher a little bit, it almost sounded like, I don't want to call this an afterthought, but it sounded like, oh, okay, well, you know, he's doing so well, we might as well run him. Destin, on the other hand, this has been the goal ever since the Kentucky Derby. He's only raced once in 13 weeks. But at the end of the day, he ran very well in the Derby, and I think this being the goal, I don't know if the distance is going to work for him, but guess what? I don't know if the distance is going to work for any of these horses, save one horse in particular who we'll talk about in a moment. Destin seems to be a horse, though. He has fast races on his page. If you go through his past performances, he has run fast in the past. I thought he ran pretty well, all things considered, in the Derby, and you would imagine that Pletcher's going to have him keyed up, ready to go tomorrow afternoon, and hopefully we'll see. Can he go a mile and a half? Again, I don't know if any of these horses can go a mile and a half, maybe with the exception of the Japanese wonder horse Lonnie, who at this point has become more of an urban legend or a myth than anything else that he's done on the racetrack. He's the UAE Derby winner. He's come over here. He ran okay in the Derby. He didn't run great. Thought he ran a little bit better in the Preakness. Now, look, he had everything go his way. He had the pace set up. He's handled the wet track in the past, and he rallied into it pretty well. Again, I don't know if he's going to be able to handle a mile and a half, but if anyone is bred for it, it is this horse coming in from Japan. It'll be very interesting, too. Again, he's got a bit of a fanfare at this stage in the game, not because of what he's done, because of his antics. That being said, it seems like he's kind of coming into this a little bit more professional, a little bit more mature. Maybe his time over here in the States, he's matured, he's settled down a little bit. We'll see him tomorrow afternoon, and maybe this is the last time we see him in North America. Maybe he goes back to Japan and he'll get the summer off. It'll be interesting to see how things shake down. Again, we'll take a look at the field one more time before we cut for break. You've got 13 going to go a mile and a half tomorrow afternoon. It's the test of the champion. No one knows who's truly going to be suited for this mile and a half. None of them are truly suited for it. But we had an interesting late entrant in the Rabbit, the number 6 Gettysburg. He's going to go out for Steve Asmussen and Windstar Farm, hopefully to set things up for his stablemate Creator, as well as another horse, Exaggerator, who Windstar has a part of. But boy, you look at this field top to bottom, it's going to be very interesting. Numerous ways to go. We'll dive into this race in a little bit later on when we dive into some handicapping. Again, this show is only going to be a half hour today, on par with the other 3 legs of the Triple Crown, because we'll be coming on DRF Live later on this afternoon. Myself, Dan Elm, and Mike Beer. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look back at last week as far as the handicapping races that we threw out there. We'll see how we fared. We'll take another break. We'll come back and we'll preview a couple races coming up in the next 2 days at Belmont Park for the Belmont Stakes. The Matt Bernier Show. Stay with us.
Say goodbye to your inner caveman. If you're making caveman bets on pick sixes, you could be leaving money on the table. DRF Bets Ticketmaker helps you build more profitable exotic bets and place them with one click. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticketmaker. Be a samurai with your ROI. DRF Bets Ticketmaker helps you cut out unprofitable exotic bets before they happen and be the master of profits. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticketmaker, the exotic wagering app.
Breeders' Cup Classic. Private Zone has run a 45 flat half mile and has opened up 2.5 lengths. Private Zone's got the lead close to home and he's all by himself. Private Zone wins the Forgo.
.1207 East Coast, 907 West Coast, the Matt Bernier Show here on DRF Live on the eve of the Belmont Stakes. Again, we've got big action all day today and tomorrow right here on DRF Live. Obviously, the normal feed below us, below the video player if you're watching live, that's always going to be here, and that's always got great stuff all across the country, but particularly on these big days, today and tomorrow. And then to go along with it, we'll have some live DRF Live coverage this afternoon. Myself, Dan Elm, and Mike Beer will hop back in the studio about 3 o'clock. I'm sorry, 4:30, right in that ballpark, somewhere. 4 or 4:30, whatever it may be. We're going to bring you through the late pick 4 this afternoon here at Belmont, and then tomorrow we'll be on at 12:30 to bring you through all the graded stakes action at Belmont Park. Let's first, before we go into looking at some of the races upcoming this weekend, let's look at back what happened last weekend with 3 races that we handicapped here on the show. This is the norm if you're new to it. We go through, we'll handicap a couple races, we'll throw out some odds, what I think they should be, what they aren't likely to go off at, whatever it may be. And then the following week, we take a look at it again. So let's start off with the Pennine Ridge, where last week I thought a live long shot coming into this spot was a horse called Call Provision, coming out of a maiden victory for Chad Brown. Brown had all the runners really in this spot. He had Camelot Kitten, he had this horse, he had Converge. I thought this horse was kind of sneaky going into it, and guess what? He took a ton of money early, and that's always the dangerous thing about calling a horse a live long shot, because he was 12-1 on the line. I didn't know what we were going to get for a price. For a long time, he was down at 4-1, 9-2. He floated up a little bit toward the end. I believe he ultimately went off at 6-1. Larry Colmus from the top of the stretch, the Pennine Ridge.
Toughest Hombre loses the lead to Hammer's Vision. Here's Camelot Kitten on the outside, and gaining ground 2 is Call Provision. Highland Skies on the far outside. Down toward the inside, it's Azar and Dresden Hermes. A driving finish here. It's Camelot Kitten in front, close to home. Toughest Hombre is tough. It is going to be Camelot Kitten. Camelot.
Colmus with the call of the Pennine Ridge. Again, it was a scenario where it's so tough when you call a live long shot. You have no idea what the public is going to do. And look, the public gravitated toward this horse. And from a speed figure standpoint, he didn't make a whole lot of sense. He wasn't nearly as fast as these ones, but I think a lot of people looked at it and said, in Chad we trust. Chad places horses where they belong, where they can be competitive. And if you had gone back and watched that maiden score, you can do that in DRF Formulator. We've got all the replays available for you. You kind of looked at him, and coming down the lane, he kicked like a good thing. So maybe he was a little bit light on seasoning and experience and actually facing winners, but boy, at the same time, it looked like he had that nice late kick. He finishes a good second there at 6-1. I think this is a nice sort of springboard and building block for him going forward, and you'd have to assume that we're going to be looking at a race like the Belmont Derby here just after 4th of July weekend. I would assume the same goes for Camelot Kitten, the winner of that race, another Chad Brown runner. No surprise there. Ran very well, got a very good trip, I thought. And all things considered, he's had good trips and good pace scenarios in each of his past 2 races. I think he's a nice horse. He's not a horse that I'm going to be terrified, though, taking a shot against coming up here, again, in a race like the Belmont Derby, perhaps, because you've got some other lightly raced horses. And the Belmont Derby, as always, you'll have those European imports that come over, and they're always so salty. So, live long shot in the Pennine Ridge. I thought the number 7 Call Provision. He ended up finishing 3rd, not 2nd, at 6-1. I had him at 9-1 on my own personal line, so there was no win bet there for me. Let's move on to the Shoemaker Mile. I thought the most likely winner in the race was Heart to Heart. I thought a fair number on him would have been 2-1. I thought, and again, this is an air quotes, in a 6-horse field, it's hard to have a true long shot. I thought a live long shot that may get overlooked a little bit was Midnight Storm. I had made him 7-2 on my line, and I just thought the way this race could potentially set up, Midnight Storm, at his best, was as good, if not better, than everyone else in the field. And it was just a matter of, I think he had a little bit of dirtied up form. If he worked out the right sort of trip, I thought he could be a bit of an upset special. Again, I pegged him at 7-2 on my line. Michael Rona, turn for home, Shoemaker Mile.
Swing for home, 3 lengths, 20-20 Vision home run, Kitten, 3/16 left to go, and the leader Midnight Storm being taken on by Tourist. Heart to Heart couldn't go on with it. 20-20 Vision is 4th to the 16th pole. Midnight Storm and Tourist. It's Tourist on the outside. Midnight Storm gallant keeps fighting. Midnight Storm, he wins it this year by the same margin he lost it.
Michael, the call of the Shoemaker Mile. Look, Midnight Storm, it was a very interesting race, and we can dive into this a little bit right now. You just saw the stretch run if you're watching on DRF Live or you're watching the YouTube version or you're on DRF.com. Tourist, we've got a major issue with Tourist simply because I didn't love him going into it and I didn't understand the fascination because I felt like he just kind of runs his race time and time again, and more often than not it's not good enough. He hung badly there. He didn't change leads till very, very late in the going. This is a horse that continues to run big races and earn big buyer speed figures. And he's going to take money time and time again, and he's the kind of horse that I'm just not afraid of. I'll bet against him every time. Midnight Storm, let's talk about the break. He broke like a shot. And Heart to Heart, ridden by Julian Leperoux. Midnight Storm, you had Rafael Bejarano in the irons. Bejarano, this horse was keyed up, Midnight Storm, and he said, you know what, we're going to go on with it. They went pretty fast early on, but the minute Heart to Heart relinquished the lead, it was over. He can't pass a horse. And I made the comparison. I really feel like he is the turf version of Bayern that we had seen over the past few years. Bayern was a brilliant horse, but at the end of the day, he didn't like to fight. If you let him get out there and do his own thing and dictate the terms, he was lethal. He would run a hole in the wind. Same with Heart to Heart. If you make either one of them have to pass you, it's over. They have no chance. So when Midnight Storm went on with it and put this horse behind him, sure, Leperoux got him out and did what he needed to do, did what he could do. And no, it looked like the horse tried to make a bit of a bid on the far turn. He just wasn't good enough. A disappointing effort for Heart to Heart. He's been turned out for the summer by Brian Lynch. Brian Lynch, all sorts of stories have gone on over the past few days with Brian Lynch, unfortunately, whether I'm not going to dive into it, but you know what the situation is. Private zone being scratched in this afternoon's True North because of a marijuana scenario. We're not going to, again, you can go on and see the story on DRF Live. But at the end of the day, Heart to Heart just doesn't have a lot of heart, which is a little bit disappointing. Midnight Storm thought it was a good effort. The concern I have is you saw him very late in the game, switch back to his left lead. I wonder if this is going to be a case where this race, he fired his shot and that cracked him, and this is it. That was as good as you're going to get from him, and I don't know if he's going to take a step forward again, or he can run another big, big race like that, a 108 buyer. So again, the live long shot, Midnight Storm, he wins at 9-2. The most likely winner, Heart to Heart, is 4th at 4-5. The Penn Mile was an interesting race. I thought there was a horse in here that was just an absolute, I don't want to call him a slam dunk because there was a couple of good horses in here. I thought Beach Patrol was coming into this sitting on a big one, first time out for Chad Brown after a private purchase. Thought he was the most likely winner. I pegged him at 3-1. I thought a live long shot was Unbridled Daddy, shipping down from New York for Todd Pletcher. Bit of trouble in his most recent start in the Woodhaven. Came on a little bit at the end. I had made him 4-1 on my line. Let's take it from the top of the stretch because, boy, this race didn't work out well for me.
Straighten for the drive, and Catch a Glimpse gets away now, opens up by 3 on her male rivals. It's still Giant Run second. Inside Silent Waters, belatedly Arrow Force, but Catch a Glimpse, this filly is this good. Catch a Glimpse to win the Penn Mile.
Look, Catch a Glimpse is a horse that myself and Dan Illman particularly, we have tried to beat her almost every time simply because she's not professional and it drives us nuts. Now, again, this is probably a bit of a problem that Illman and I have. We're just sort of these nitpicky, very, looking for any little thing. She's never done anything professionally, but at the end of the day, she's fast. She's fast and she likes to win. She's unbeaten on turf, and you can't knock a horse that just goes out there and wins time and time again. I don't think it's fair to be calling her Little Tepin. It still drives me a little bit nuts because she's not nearly Tepin. But at the end of the day, she's lightly raced. She's a young 3-year-old. She could develop a little bit more. I hope the connections. It'll be interesting to see what Mark Casse does with her because I guess you've got that sort of drive or that interest in the back of your head to see if she can stretch out in the Belmont Oaks to 1.25 miles. There's just something about it. I think she's more of a mile or 1.16 sort. I think we ultimately see a little bit of a break. Maybe we get her back up at Saratoga. The opening weekend stakes, I believe, is the Lake Placid. No, it's the Lake George. It's for 3-year-old fillies. I think we see her in that spot. Can't take anything away from the winner. She ran huge. Aeroforce was a Casse Exacta. Aeroforce ran very well coming out of that American turf where he got cooked on the engine. They took him back, made his move, thought he ran well. For me, in a 7-horse field, when you run 6th and 7th with the most likely winner in a live long shot, that's called crap in the bed. That was a disaster. Hey, at the end of the day, we win some, we lose some. We win with Midnight Storm. We completely bomb with Beach Patrol and Unbridled Daddy. Unfortunately, it happens, but the good thing is, this is why a line is so important. Now, I liked Unbridled Daddy underneath. I didn't think I was going to be playing him to win. I pegged him at 4-1. He went off at 7-1. Again, because I liked other horses more, I didn't bet him to win. As far as Beach Patrol is concerned, if he had been 3-1, there probably would have been a little bit of a red flag in my mind because I would have said, why is he so cold on the board? But at the same time, he went off at 7-5, and there's no bet there for me. So ultimately, I didn't really lose anything in the Penn Mile. I tried to get into that race with exotics. Didn't work out, and ultimately, no harm, no foul. That's part of the game. Conversely, you go to the race like the Shoemaker Mile, and this is right before we take a commercial break. You look at the odds. I had made Heart to Heart 2-1, thought he was the most likely winner. He went up at 4-5. I didn't touch him, nothing there. I really liked it. I picked Midnight Storm as far as our preview is concerned, but again, it comes down to making your line. I made him 7-2, 3.5-1. He went off at 9-2, 4.5-1. That was a significant value to me, and it was worth a pretty significant win play. And again, that's why making a line is so important and staying to it. You got to be able to fluctuate a little bit, but it's always better to be on the cautious side than the aggressive side, particularly when we're talking about putting your own hard-earned money on the line. So that's why we make a line, and guess what? You're going to see my line for these 3 races that we're going to handicap after the break here on the Matt Bernier Show. We've got lines for 3 big races tomorrow afternoon at Belmont Park, highlighted by the Belmont Stakes. Stay with us.
Say goodbye to your inner caveman. If you're making caveman bets on pick sixes, you could be leaving money on the table. DRF Bets Ticketmaker helps you build more profitable exotic bets and place them with one click. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticketmaker. Be a samurai with your ROI. DRF Bets Ticketmaker helps you cut out unprofitable exotic bets before they happen and be the master of profits. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticketmaker, the exotic wagering app.
Breeders' Cup Classic. Private Zone has run a 45 flat half mile and has opened up 2.5 lengths. Private Zone's got the lead close to home and he's all by himself. Private Zone wins the Forgo.
12:19 East Coast, 11:19 West Coast, 11:19. No, that would be Central Time. I believe it would be 9:19 on the West Coast. The Matt Bernier Show here on DRF Live. Let's take a look at the handicapping preview segment. Again, this is what we normally do week in and week out. We'll go over races. We'll recap what happened the weekend prior, but we'll also kind of give you a little bit of a tease headed into some action. And all three of these races are going to be tomorrow afternoon at Belmont Park. We'll cover them all here on DRF Live starting at 12:30 Eastern. Let's start off with the first race, that being the Woody Stephens. This is a salty, salty race, okay? You got to feel the 13 in here. It's hard to have any real conviction. And again, for those of you that didn't watch last weekend, the odds card we're about to show you, you're going to see odds to the right of all of these horses' names. It's not the morning line. I can't stress this enough. This is me showing you what the value line's all about and how you guys can go about playing it and making your own value line. And that's the beauty of this game. You're trying to figure out where the value lies according to your opinion, because at the end of the day, your opinion's the only one that matters. Not mine, not Illman's, not Beer's, not anybody's. Yours. So let's take a look. We've got 13 horses signed on in here. I think it's a very interesting race. The first horse down on the inside is Sharp Azteca. He's 6-1, in my eyes anyway, in the 13-horse field. And a lot of people are going to look at that and say that's insane because he ran such a giant race in the Pate Mile. You've got to keep in mind, there is so much speed signed on in this race and breaking from the rail. And I also think it's something that you got to consider. Joe Bravo, I think, is a very good jockey. Edgar Zayas has been on board this horse every one of his starts. This is going to be something different for Sharp Azteca. These are my odds. I think he has a lot of pace, and I think he's got to go from the inside. I wouldn't want anything less than 6-1 on this horse, and I know I'm not going to get it. So again, that kind of lends itself to showing you that, guess what? It comes down to price. You're shopping around. You're not going to be betting. The horse you pick or you think is the most likely winner may not be the horse you end up betting on. It comes down to value. And again, I'm not suggesting if I peg a horse like Fish Trap Road, well, I actually think he's good. I just think he's in a very tough spot. I pegged him at 32-1. I mean, if he goes off at 50-1 or 40-1, maybe he's worth a couple bucks. But I mean, I guess I'm looking at even more so like a horse like, I don't know, I Will Score. I think I Will Score is going to get absolutely roasted on the front end. I made him 19-1. If he goes off at 30, does that mean that I'm going to be betting him? I don't know, maybe not. I think, again, you got to be a little bit flexible. You can't be stringent and stick to it totally, but you also have to kind of factor in a little bit of the fact that at the end of the day, the lower the price that you make them, the more likely you think they are to win the race. And again, I think Sharp Azteca at 6-1, I think that's a fair number. I know I'm not going to get 6-1. Let's dive into it. I think the most likely winner of this race is Sharp Azteca. Again, not saying anything that's groundbreaking or is shattering. I think a live long shot in the horse that I'm most likely to be betting on is Tom's Ready, the number 9. Tom's Ready ran in the Kentucky Derby unsuccessfully. They're going to turn him back, Dallas Stewart, and this is the important part, and I'm glad that we've thrown the odds back up. You take a look. I think Sharp Azteca at 6-1, the most likely winner. Justin Squared, Baffert's runner, very, very fast, blistering fast. He's got to go 7/8 of a mile for the first time. I made him 6-1. Seymour Deeney for Linda, I think, is very, very good. 7-1. Counterforce is going to get a great setup, 6-1. When we take a look at the next page, Tom's Ready, I made him 13-1. He was my pick when we did the preview, if you've watched it on video.drf.com, and I'm going to probably be betting him. I think a lot of things are good for him. The turn back, the blinkers come off. I think he's a live long shot. I want to have many exotics, hopefully alive to him, whether it's a daily double, pick 3, anything else like that. And again, if he goes off at a big enough number from a win standpoint, maybe I'll play him. I made him 13-1 again. Most likely winner for me in the Woody Stephens. The inside runner, the 1 Sharp Azteca, live long shot, I think is the 9 Tom's Ready. Let's move into the Metropolitan Handicap, the Met Mile. It's a fantastic race. These odds that I have posted right here, they're going to get tweaked a little bit simply because El Kabir, who I had made 99-1, basically a 1% chance, he is out of the race, as well as a horse toward the outside, the number 9, Sloan Avenue. He is also scratched. I made him 32-1. That comes out to about 3%. So the combined number for those two will be 4% that I'm going to need to allot elsewhere. Just keep that in the back of your head. I think this race is an absolute skullbuster. I think it can go so many different ways. I think sneaky, again, a lot of people are going to look at Frosted, making his first start back in the States here from Dubai. Unsuccessful in the Dubai World Cup. There's nothing wrong with that. Not all horses are capable of doing that. I think he's the most likely winner. I made him 6-1. I also think he's a vulnerable favorite at 6-1 as far as my eyes. Again, if I think he's the most likely winner, I don't think he's a slam dunk by any stretch. And I think the public is really going to go toward him. I think a live long shot, and I know people are saying you're an idiot for going back to Donworth. Donworth had no chance in the Charlestown Classic. He got a miserable ride. And the fact that he was as close as he was, at the end, I thought was a very, very positive thing. I think this horse has got a ton of ability. He and his rider, look, Gutierrez has won the Derby. He's won big races in the past, and he's given good rides to a lot of horses. It just seems like he and Donworth are not getting along at this stage in the game, and maybe I'll lose more money on Donworth tomorrow afternoon. From a talent standpoint, I would make the case he is just as talented as any one of these horses in the race. Again, he's got to be a number. I made him 9-1. He's 20-1 on the line. If you think you're getting 20, I've got a bridge to sell you. It ain't going to happen. It'll end up being probably between, I would say, 9 and 12-1. He'll be in that range somewhere. I made him 9-1. If he goes off anything much higher than that, I'll be very interested in him from a win standpoint. But again, let's take a look at the odds one more time if we could for the mile. I think it's a very interesting race. Again, you're going to have to scratch El Kabir, the inside runner, and scratch the 9 Sloan Avenue. So my odds will change very, very slightly. I think the most likely winner and a vulnerable favorite at the same time of the 5 is the 5 Frosted, and I think a live long shot is the number 3 Donworth. Let's move on to the big one, the test of a champion, the Belmont Stakes, the 148th running. There is a field of 13 signed on here. We showed you the entry card at the top. Let's show you the entry card with my odds. I think the horse to beat in here, no surprise, is Exaggerator, number 11. But I'm very high on the number 1, Governor Malibu. I think Governor Malibu, I picked him on top to win this race. I've made him 6-1. He's 12-1 on the line. I don't know how they're going to bet him. I think it's going to be fascinating to see ultimately whether he is in that sort of 8-1 range or does he float up. Do people go overboard on Exaggerator? And when we flip the page to the Exaggerator numbers, people are probably going to, again, say, you're a dummy. You're never going to get 5-1 on him. I'm well aware of that. That's not the point of the value line. The value line is what I think would be a fair number on a horse making his 3rd start in 5 weeks in 3 different states, going in his 3rd race of major competition level, of the best, and going 1.5 miles for the first and likely only time in his career. You're telling me you want to take 9-5 on this horse? He's 9-5 in the morning line. I don't even think he's going to be 9-5. Like Watchmaker thinks he's going to be 3-5. I think there's probably a happy medium. I think he's probably close to even money. I would look at that and say you really seriously need to reassess things, or at least look at them a little bit differently if you want to have success long term in this game, because that's not the sort of winning proposition that is going to flourish down the road. You got to look at it and say, with all the unknowns, boy, taking a short number on a horse going 1.5 miles, I couldn't support it. I think he's the most likely winner. I think a live long shot is Governor Malibu again. I made him 6-1 on my own line. I think the other Pletcher horses are both interesting as well. I picked Destin second as far as the paper is concerned. I think he's 6-1. Let's take a look at the odds again if we could, Mike. I also have Stradivari at 6-1. I think those two are arguably the other likely upsetters, if you will, of Exaggerator. But you look at some of these other horses. I don't think Sudden Breaking News is totally without a chance. I just don't like the way this thing sets up on paper for him, even with Gettysburg in here as the rabbit. I think there's a couple interesting horses. Why can't a horse like Seeking the Soul get brave out there? Why can't Lonnie come clunking along? Brody's Cause, I think he's going to have too much work to do. And Creator, I think he's more talented than Brody's Cause, but very similarly to Sudden Breaking News, he's going to be doing his best running from the back of the pack. Don't know that they get the setup that they need. It's going to be very interesting, the 148th running of the Belmont Stakes. Again, we'll be here on DRF Live this afternoon starting. Mike, do we know, can you tell me, is it 4 o'clock, 4:30? So 4:30. We'll be on at 4:30 this afternoon. Myself, Dan Elman, Mike Beer. We'll bring you through the late pick 4 sequence at Belmont Park this afternoon. 3 graded stakes, or 3 stakes races anyways. The True North is in there. Got a couple of the good ones as well. And then let's throw up the slate for tomorrow afternoon here on DRF Live. We'll be on at 12:30. Look at that. Does not get any better than that. It's the Breeders' Cup in June. It's the Belmont Festival of Racing, the Belmont Stakes Festival. You've got all graded stakes action from 12:39 to 6:37. Multiple Grade 1 races. A pick 4 comprised of all Grade 1 races. Again, myself, Dan Elman, Mike Beer. We'll be here bringing you through the Belmont Stakes. We'll find out if Exaggerator can ultimately go on and win 2/3 of racing's, American racing's Triple Crown anyway. And we'll see. Maybe. Sounds like Keith DeSormo is content. He's going to stay here in New York after this race is over to get a little bit of a breather and then get pointed toward the Jim Dandy and the Travers up at Saratoga. Hopefully we'll get Nyquist back by then. Maybe we'll have some other interesting new shooters. Gift box for Chad Brown looked very good a couple weeks back. So it's an exciting time, but here we are. We're at the finish line for the Triple Crown as far as 2016 is concerned.